All right, and we are live with the Brown Bag Business Chat. Today, we are going to talk about the savviest marketing known to man. We have Alex Vasquez here, someone whose name I can finally pronounce. From DigiSavvy. Is it DigiSavvy?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I really want to pronounce the I, but I'm not sure if it'll flow right. So DigiSavvy Marketing, you guys build custom websites, custom plugins, custom solutions for customers. And that's what we're talking about today is custom WordPress solutions and just kind of WordPress in general, giving people a kind of a broad overview, I guess, of why WordPress is such a good option. Because, you know, we talk a lot about in the WordPress community. I think it's almost kind of, there's this assumption that, yes, obviously WordPress is the best solution. That's why we've all built our businesses around it. But why is that the case? Is that really the case? What are other solutions different in some way? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about open source. And Alex, before we begin, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you start, DigiSavvy? Why don't you tell us about, what you guys do there? Just give us the background. Give us the skinny.
You know what, Adam? I'm not telling you anything, okay? you're not my mom, okay? So, no. So as far as how the company started, I had my own web design company, and one of my best friends, Chris Toller, he was in college at the time, and we met by playing a game, a card game.
Yeah,
actually,
a card game I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, to unpack that a little more, it's a card game called Magic the Gathering. As I push up my glasses,
right.
So we used to play this. We used to play this game at this local game shop, and we would talk about we would talk a little bit about my business and marketing and things like that. And after enough of those discussions, and after me losing enough times in Magic, I'm like, I'm a pretty awful Magic player. Maybe there's some synergy here as far as starting up a business goes. So,
sure.
So we had made a decision to start working together on different projects, and he is very much the marketing-minded person, and I'm much more deeply tied to the technical aspect and writing code and architecting a solution. So that's kind of how it started. So it started with one person tapping a forest, another person tapping a mountain, and saying, "I pass, and your turn."
That's a beautiful story. It's so funny. I've run into this with other shops too, where a few people who have, and usually there's, you specialize in one area, someone specializes in another. And I have another good friend where, really into the tech side of things, not sure about the business or the design aspect, ran into a guy, realized he was a really great designer and formed a company around it. So yeah, I think that's cool how you don't need, how WordPress kind of even makes that possible, because if you went back 30 years ago, you couldn't just have two guys show up and start a business like that, at least not all over the place. Every now and then it would happen, but it seems like it's more possible with CMSs and like WordPress.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, the platform has made it possible for us to have a business to kind of strike out on our own and everything. And one of I think like the catchphrase for WordPress is, to democratize publishing. But I really think it democratizes, starting your own business.
Absolutely.
It definitely does that. And, and I think you're correct to highlight that, other CMSs allow for this too. And, there's just other platforms that give people that freedom to publish and put their thoughts online and to sell things.
Right.
And, whereas, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, you would have to pay like tens of thousands of dollars to someone to custom build a thing for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to choose WordPress? I mean, did you look at other options, or were you just like, open source is all the way, that's what I want to do, and I already know WordPress is what I'm familiar with?
Look, man, WordPress, I didn't choose WordPress. WordPress chose me.
That's perfect.
All right. So when I first started going on my own, I was using Joomla, which is another popular CMS.
Right.
And I was using it in its early days, maybe around version 2 dot something or other. And, I would get complaints from customers, just like people, well, maybe not complaints, but I'd always get calls on how to do a thing, like how to do simple updates. So, one of the things was I would get complaints and just frequent calls about how to update simple content on their site.
Right.
And the idea was, for me at least, I definitely believe in empowering business owners, giving them, the power to, make updates and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like I don't believe in locking folks in, but so Joomla just was not an ideal platform. And friends had told me about WordPress, and I was like, yeah, it's just for blogs. They're like, no, you should really check it out. And I said, no, that sounds dumb. And eventually, after many years, I learned that I was the dumb one. I was late to the party. And, I remember the very first site that I did, and it just took building one site to realize how powerful the platform was. But not only that, and I think the reason why people flock to it is because there's so much about it that's already search engine friendly.
Yeah.
Like without really having to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's something that, especially when you're starting your own business, you're not familiar with it. Really, many business owners know next to nothing about a lot of this stuff, which is because that's not their specialty. So the word SEO itself starts to come up, or the acronym, and people start to talk about it. And it's nice to be able to say, look, this is already set up that way. You don't have to worry so much about this stuff. You don't have to dig into your header and start embedding a bunch of code, on every page of your website, because WordPress has it covered. Or if it doesn't, a plugin does, and there's a simple solution out there.
Well, and that kind of brings, so that's a nice way to kind of segue into a kind of a thought that I have, and this is probably something that you deal with a lot more than I do. But once a week I volunteer for the Small Business Development Center, and I talk to different small businesses about digital marketing and stuff like that.
Right.
And everyone who comes in is like, well, how do I SEO this thing? Or is it SEO, or some weird usage of SEO, right?
Right.
Like, how that goes. And, I think a lot of folks spend way too much time thinking about that. Like, I think, there's certain best practices, right? Like there's certain things that you should make sure are in place. And, beyond that, you probably need someone like a Blue Steel Solutions to kind of come up with a plan and target certain stuff. But, I think WordPress takes care of a lot of that. If you have the right platform, you don't need to stress as much about search engine optimization, because the idea is you've got a friendly platform. As long as Google sees it, it's going to direct people to you if you're posting stuff that people want to read, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's something that's not exactly, it's not clear at all. SEO, when people first start to dig into it, it just seems like magic tricks, really. It's like, how do I trick these crazy algorithms into thinking that I'm worthwhile, because I know I'm worthwhile and that I got stuff people need to see. But it's really not about that. It's about, like you said, creating good, valuable content consistently over time, and showing not just Google but people, right, which is what we're worried about anyway, that this website is valuable and needs to be checked out.
Well, and to just to add to that, I think that first of all, I don't need an algorithm to tell me that Adam is a pretty cool dude. Right. So I think by this point I've demonstrated that I definitely appreciate the work that you do, because I think what I see is, you are great at creating different types of content that attract different types of people. Like a lot of the stuff that you guys publish are, it's like, even though you guys do a lot of WordPress stuff, like I think you very intelligently think about who you're going after, or like who that target market is for each piece of content that you build. And I think that's smart. And it's smart, but it's also not it's not that hard.
Yeah.
And that's, so when you're creating the content, you know, if you're telling these people, well, you need to create content, well, they're like, yeah, I know that, but what am I supposed to do?
Right,
Like,
right.
you know, give me something more. And, you know, it's like, well, who cares about what you do, right? Like, you know, is it homeowners? You know,
Right.
is it a heating company? I don't know. So I think people put way too much thought on it, and it's like, it's already a friendly platform.
Yeah.
Write what you know for the people who will care about what you do.
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you. I'm very flattered. That was very nice of you to say.
The bromance is off the charts here, man.
Exactly, right? We're going to play Magic the Gathering all night long. So, but yeah, I mean, in terms of creating this content, I think it almost makes it easier because it's so, when you're so focused on one particular topic, you run out of stuff to write. I mean, that's just how it goes, and you start to really dig. But when you kind of broaden your scope and you say, and fortunately, you know, we're not super specialized, just like you guys have to do a lot of different things. We do a lot of different things, so we can write in all these different areas. But it's nice to be able, and I think it's important for business owners to understand too. It's like, just because, like, for instance, just because you sell you know, one particular product doesn't mean that there are other products that surround this product you can't write about. You know, just because you like run a men's sober house doesn't mean that you can't talk about drug treatment or rehabs or you know. So there's lots of things that you know, there's that little nucleus that you kind of focus on, but there's this broader range that you can really write about, and people are looking for basic information a lot of the time. So it's easy to write, you know, some introductory stuff and not worry about sounding like this super expert.
Well, and there it is right there. Like, I think there's a lot of focus on, well, maybe there's not a lot of focus on it, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think some people feel a pressure to be like the best or to be the expert. And and it's not about that. It's about finding the synergy with people who, you know, maybe they do the same thing, or maybe they do something else a lot better than you do. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And you know, the examples you provided are great. You know, I think with Blue Steel, you guys do a lot of different stuff, and some of the stuff that you guys do, you know, I admire a lot. And I would say, yeah, you guys like have that on lock. You have it on fleek. I don't know if that's the right usage of that awful term.
I feel like that's what olds say.
Did you say that's what olds say?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We have become olds.
Oh man, we are definitely olds. I was picking out gray hairs. This is not cute. But you know, the point with it is just, you know, like there's good synergy. You know, if you do run like you know, a clothing store or something, you know, certainly you could talk or I don't know, you could talk about different things related to that, like clothing or things like that, or
shoes and all kinds.
I mean, it's just wherever that synergy is, and there's something that you can spin off and write about, and you know, and then you get the other people involved, and then you know, there's a synergy created. They don't mind promoting you, you're promoting them, and it just works. So
yeah, absolutely.
The premise of just helping people.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing how, and I feel like that's kind of the spirit of WordPress itself, you know, is that it's not just about okay, we've made this thing, you know, simple for everyone to use, but there's this spirit of community and helping others and helping each other that is really interesting and refreshing to see in the business world, because you go to like a WordCamp San Diego or any WordCamp really, WordCamp DFW, we have the same kind of feeling where everyone's just kind of friendly and willing to talk and willing to help. And if you're like, hey, I've got a bit of code I can't figure out, that someone will pop out their laptop and say, sure, let's take a look at it. So I think that it all kind of fits together in that way with a content strategy and a social media strategy that's about, you know, sharing and reciprocity.
Yeah, I don't think I could say that better.
Well, thank you.
You nailed it. So I'm just going to go home now.
Oh
wait, I'm already home. I'm already home.
No, I've already done it.
Yeah,
so let's talk about website builders, because I know that this is something that comes up for us from time to time, and just generally I'll get questions as an individual about it. Is that how do you feel about someone building a website using Squarespud or Wix I love that name. So, why is it that you feel like WordPress, because you and I both know that in the long run for any business, this is going to be a better solution, but why is that? Why should a website builder kind of be avoided?
Well, I do think that there are reasons why it could make sense.
Okay.
And sure. I think that maybe the learning curve on something like a Squarespace or a Wix, relatively speaking, is going to be lower than WordPress, because WordPress is great. True. It's not the easiest though, and
that's true.
I think there are enough templates to kind of get something basic and informational up.
Yeah.
But the one thing I tell people, and this has always happened, customers who are on one of those platforms, they get to that point. You know what point I'm talking about? That they get to that 85%, 90% point where they're like, okay, I want to do this thing, or I want to grow a little bit more, or I want to do this or that, or there's some bit of functionality that's missing.
Yeah.
And it's just that tiny thing that just kind of breaks it for them. And it's not because Squarespace or Wix necessarily sucks. They have a hosted platform. They know what works. So they have a set amount of functionality that you can incorporate.
Yeah.
So it's great, but at some point, there's going to be this missing piece of functionality, and if it's critical to your business, you might have to either A, live with it, or B, make a migration. So
which is
that's
a huge pain in the ass, right?
Yeah. And the other thing, and this came up last year, and tell me if you remember this, but I don't know if it was Wix or Weebly, but one of them got de-indexed by Google.
I think it was I want to say Weebly.
Yeah, and that would scare me. Because all those sites are hosted on one platform, and to know that it can be taken out just for whatever reason, however good that reason might be, but that's a threat.
It is a huge threat, and we talk about that a lot. That's one of our main things, is that you build a website in WordPress, you own that site. WordPress is not a platform that's going anywhere. It's going to evolve over time, and eventually that the template that you used in 2006 just isn't going to cut it anymore. But it's yours, and you don't depend on someone. I think there's almost this strange idea, because we say the same thing about, it's like, why not just have a page on Facebook and build my whole business around this Facebook page? Well, it's the same reason. Facebook changes the rules from time to time. And although it seems like this giant, Facebook seems like this monstrosity that can never be stopped, people thought the same thing about, other social media platforms too. MySpace, no one could imagine MySpace going anywhere for a while. And now it's this, the butt of the industry, right? The butt of every joke. So I think that's an important thing to remember, is that, if anything happens to these companies, if Automatic, God forbid, goes down, we don't have to worry about not all our websites going with it.
Yeah, and I just on that note, I'd like to make just a quick announcement that if you want to connect with me on social media, you can find me at myspace.com/Alex Vasquez.
Excellent. I will be there. I will join you. You'll be my only friend other than, who's the guy that's always on your MySpace when you start up? It's like
Tom Anderson.
Tom, yes.
You know what? You look like you could be related to Tom Anderson.
Awesome.
That was one of my follow-up questions, is like, do you actually know Tom Anderson? And like you have to strike that pose right now. Like you have to look behind you and give a thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
I am totally screenshotting that.
That's awesome.
That makes me so
that'll
happy.
be the shot for this. That'll be the main thumbnail for this.
That better be. It has to be. Like you could go to a Halloween party dressed as Tom Anderson.
There we go. I just wear my shirt. So but I think the thing we were kind of talking about, the main point is that eventually the goal for your business is to grow, right?
Yes.
The goal is to grow every business. A business that isn't growing, not so great. So so that's what, you know, WordPress kind of brings, right? Is it gives you the potential to grow, and not just grow in size, but in functionality, where you one day you decide, you know, we really need gift cards available on our website, and we can't do that with this website builder.
Well, and I think that's the big difference between page builders like website builders and WordPress. So one of the things that you and I you know, maybe talked about before is, you know, when I'm talking to clients, you know, the conversation is never about we need to build a website.
Yeah.
The conversation is we need to build a platform for your business to accomplish A, B, and C.
Right.
You know, like no one cares about building a website. Someone cares about getting sales. Someone cares about, you know, connecting with their next customer. Someone cares about, you know, doing things in a more interesting and cost-effective way that saves them money and that gives them a better tomorrow.
Right.
Website builders don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And WordPress allows for that, you know.
So how often do you guys find yourself building like custom plugins? And maybe we should talk about what that means when we say custom website, custom WordPress theme, custom plugin, because it's not, you're not necessarily building things from the ground up, are you?
Well, not always. But there are specific use cases, though. You know, like different clients have different needs, and you know, so with the websites we build, you know, the functionality there's usually custom functionality that is not provided in like a plugin, which is just a WordPress add-on, right? Like, so sometimes, you know, a client has a very specific need. You know, they might need certain content listed in a certain manner that only logged in users can see, and they need to build those customers like once every 2 months or something.
Right.
You know, there's very specific use cases, and you have to be flexible, and businesses need flexible platforms that will grow with them.
Yeah,
that's the important thing. So with most of the projects, I would say we're doing fairly custom stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, and that's often the case, you know, no two businesses are alike. And while we might have, a lot of places might have the same starting point, you know, you're going to end usually somewhere else. So, so you guys offer a lot of other services as well. So you don't just do, you know, would you say that building websites is kind of your bread and butter, but then you're adding on these other services to help with a complete marketing solution for your clients?
So I think you just nailed it right there, is just offering a complete solution. So, you know, you know, it's one thing to build it and to launch it. You know, if you build a website in the woods, will anyone go to it? And you know, that's the thing, right? So, you know, a logical step is, or a logical question is, okay, you know, I've got this up, it's beautiful, I love it, now what? And so we help with the now what question. So the website development piece is probably the biggest part of what we do, but you know, also with paid search and you know, just content strategy and marketing, you know, those are services that we're able to use to kind of round out that primary offering. Yeah,
and you know, we kind of have the same thing going on, which is that, you know, you need a home, right? You need this place where everyone's supposed to come, where they can find your services, where they can contact you, where they can learn everything they're trying to learn. But you also have to let them know that it exists. And I think it's very easy to get, you know, tunnel vision around this thing and get so obsessed with, we need a website, we need a website, we don't have a website, we need a website. And then to get it and just be like, There it is. Now everyone's they're just gonna flock to it, right? You know, and kind of forget that there's billions of other websites out there, all competing for time and space.
Yeah, and you know that's so true, and you know that is an often overlooked part, and I think undervalued. And you know, as marketers, or you know, as solutions providers, you know, we have to educate clients that, hey, you know, I know you need a website, but that's not really what you need. You know, and you know, people tell you where it hurts. You know, when they're talking to you, they're like, yeah, sales suck, or you know, my competitors, you know, they're killing it online. You know, they're pushing me out, and you listen for those pain points, and that's how you communicate the value to your clients. It's like, well, you know, you're talking about these things that hurt. This is why. And, you know, here's some stuff that goes beyond just building the site, and, you know, whatever that is, you know, like, here's how we connect that to a better tomorrow. I keep on saying better tomorrow. I promise I'll stop.
No, we all want a better tomorrow. It sounds like a Donald Trump phrase. Is what it sounds like.
Well, you know what? We're making marketing great again.
There you go. I love it. That's perfect. That's my next blog post.
You know, Heather is going to poke your eyeballs out. She's just going to be like,
So, you know, you talked a little bit about doing some community service work. I know you and I both know you're kind of involved in the WordPress community as well. So do you want to talk a little bit about the community itself and how these two kind of areas, you know, intersect? Not happy, don't want to do
it? No, I hate the community. It's dumb. No, but I think what you said earlier about community, you know, it is kind of it's a very unique community. Like it's a very sharing and giving community. That said, you know, every community has, you know, its problems and its drama and whatnot. But, you know, but because the community is pretty open and pretty welcoming, you know, it's really helped me, you know, kind of build my own business. But, you know, it's given me an opportunity to also kind of put back into the community, because you know, if you don't put back into the machine that is the community, you know, like, if no one's putting into it, it's not going to be good. And you know, not only is it a duty, and I just said duty, sorry, that's twice in 2 days now, but you know, I think the point is just being involved. You know, you don't have to be the lead organizer of something. You can just show up and help move stuff, or you know, or just asking questions. You know, part of the conversation. But I've been a part of other tech communities before. Just working in information technology for years and years and years. And it's definitely, those communities are not like this. The WordPress community is very, very unique. We're very fortunate in that sense.
You know, and I think another thing to remember, especially because I think it can be easy, because every now and then there's a little bit of big WordPress drama, right? And I think it's easy to let that kind of color your thinking of the community itself. And I think it's important to remember that this community is still pretty young. You know, WordPress hasn't, it feels like it's been forever, but it hasn't been around that long. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is still kind of working itself out. You know, it's not like WordPress has been around for 100 years. You know, there's still growing pains.
Well, and that's an interesting point too, is the platform, even though it's been around, you know, it's still maturing, it's still baking, and the thing is, you know, it's growing so fast. Like it's growing, it's maturing, you know, it's changing. And I think in order to keep up with that, you know, you do want to be a part of the community. And it's not always easy for people to be a part of the community, just based, you know, like wherever you're at. You know, I'm in Southern California, so there's a lot of meetups here. There's a couple of meetups that I run. And, you know, there's a WordCamp LA was something that I organized for a few years. But you know, like, not everyone has access to that. You have to find other areas to kind of, you have to find your own watering holes, I guess.
Right. But fortunately, there are there are digital watering holes that exist. Things like WP Blab that Jason and Bridget are doing and stuff like that. Where there are these kind of and in which WordPress makes possible, right? That where people can get to know other people who are working in WordPress, even if they can't drive and physically meet a bunch of people or go to a meetup.
Well, let me ask you a question, because you know what, you're bombarding me with questions, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. So it's time for you to take some questions.
The tables have turned.
The tables have turned. So I mean, as far as the community goes, like, do you have any specific memories about the community? Like anything that you experienced where you're like, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be, or this is a really neat thing. Like, is there anything that happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I came to, so I would say that WordCamp San Diego was my first real introduction to the WordPress community, and coming in there, and well, first of all, I think it started with Chris Lima doing a speech. He spoke multiple times in 2015 when I was there, and that by itself was just like, whoa. This is awesome. This guy is awesome. So the rest of this place must be awesome. But I remember sitting in a talk where they had a panel of 4 people talking about business development within WordPress. And you had people and it was such a broad range. And there was a kid there who was like 16 years old, who was a speaker on the panel, and was just, as soon as he opened his mouth, I'm like, this guy's a genius. And then on the other end, there was someone who was and they were in their 50s or their 60s. So it was, that to me really made an impression, because I was like, wow, this is not just a bunch of 20-something white guys getting together and making this tech solution, right? This is a community that is really broad. And the fact that, to me, I was very impressed by that the kid would be allowed on the panel in the first place and invited and respected. There was no question at all about his chops, and that to me spoke, volumes, because I was like, if this whole community is willing to respect someone that much, regardless of age, regardless of experience, knowing that this guy has what it takes, that shows me a very mature community in ways that matter to me anyway. Yeah,
and I agree 100%. And I thought you were going to say, and I'm a little hurt that I thought you were going to say that you meeting me for the first time.
That was the one. That's like
that's what did it for you. You're like, WordPress for life.
Yeah.
But sadly, that was not the case.
Came up with about 5 magic cards, and my life was forever changed. So yeah, I do want to talk about a little bit about something new that you're doing, which has my most favoritist name on the internet ever, The Way of the Tortoise.
Gosh.
Can you tell us just a little bit about, I just want to bring it out there so that you feel like you have to finish this thing.
Well, thanks. The pressure is now even greater. So I've been wanting to do a series of blog posts just on developing your business online. And anything that's going to work is going to take effort, and it's going to take time. There's no quick fixes, and with any of it, you have to show up, you have to participate. And here's what really kind of got me on this tear to start doing this. So I'm going to share a little story that has to do with Blue Steel.
I'm excited.
Yeah, there was a podcast that you had done. It was a social media related one.
Yeah.
And I had posted about it and said, "Oh, great job, so and so." And that person was not a part of the podcast, and you guys called me out on it.
I remember this very specifically.
You called me out on it, and and I was like, you know what, I deserve that. And I said to myself, well, because social is not a strong part of what I do.
Right.
But the way that I learned WordPress, the way that I started learning digital marketing was by sitting down and really focusing on a set of things.
Yeah.
And these are things that I've been doing, but the way of the tortoise thing is really, that's what I think of, developing a marketing strategy, developing your business online comes down to. And it is a slow and steady thing. You have to be consistent. And it's not about doing stuff every day. Like, people like to talk about blogging every day, and you don't have to do that. If you do one or two like really solid, posts, every month, and those posts are just as relevant yesterday as they're gonna be tomorrow, that's the stuff. So anyway, I want to talk about a few different subject areas, whether it's creating content, how to socialize your business, search engine optimization basics, things that you should know. And, there's already better resources out there than what I can personally talk about. But, the idea is to share what I do know and things that I've done, and have someone be able to take this as a guide and go, each step, okay, and be able to look at it and measure it. Yeah. Because if you can measure it, you can manage it. And then, the idea is, if you do this, maybe over the next few months, you're being consistent, you can see growth, you can see a difference. Yeah. So.
And, that's an interesting point, that, there's always someone who's done something better than you'll ever, imagine doing it. But you have a unique perspective on it, one that your audience is interested in hearing. And not only that, but it gives you a valuable resource that you can just directly give to your customers, and you can say, hey, look, here are some of those questions that you have about SEO. Here's an article on it. Here's a worksheet that'll help you to understand it. And we've found that clients really do appreciate those kinds of things. Even, it's not like they pick it up and they say, well, did HubSpot write this? They're very happy to take these resources and they realize that it's a good spot to begin from,
Well, and you mentioned this thing with, did HubSpot write this? And, so I've downloaded a couple of things from your guys' site, over like the last several months or what have you. And, it's, you guys are very smart with that. And that's one of the things that I plan to talk about is just, if you have a resource, like whether it's a frequently asked questions thing, or, just a conversation that you have with a lot of people, or stuff that that you want to share, something like that is a magnet that somebody's going to want. And, you can market for that. And it doesn't take a lot to do it. No, you just need to know what to do.
Yeah, and you get a lot of those little magnets all together, and you really start to draw in some larger game, right?
No, and it's really smart what you guys do. Like some of what you guys do, I'm like, that's totally HubSpot right there. But I know it's not.
Right?
And it's totally not. And
well, I appreciate it. That's a hell of a compliment.
But I mean that. And I think that they're. Again, if you look at the people doing what you do, not as people who are taking your lunch money, but as people who, have stuff that you can learn and, collaborate. And, the idea is, hopefully they're on the same page too, and they want to share what they know with you. But, but the series, it kind of goes over this stuff. It goes over mindset and just common sense sorts of things. And now I'm going to have to draw these crazy pictures of tortoises doing various martial arts poses.
I can't wait. That sounds
amazing. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to. It's going to be so bad. It's oh gosh. Yeah. Now I actually have to finish this thing.
Yeah. Right now. Yeah. Now you're required. So we're running a little short on time. Why don't you tell us what's the most important piece of advice that you would give when it comes to websites, WordPress, that kind of thing, for small business owners? What's your go-to piece of advice, or final thoughts on this whole thing?
Wow, that's an easy but very deep question. So I think the advice is that someone wants to know what you know. They want that information. They want what you have.
Yeah.
Don't ever doubt that. People want to know it. In whatever seems easy to you, it is difficult to somebody else.
Yes.
It's like magic to them. So be aware of that, and let's talk about educating the world on it.
Yeah.
You know, like I would say that's how I would.
That was beautiful. I love the way you put that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's all raining. It's
exactly,
all raining tears.
Okay. So how can people tell us more? How can we find you, follow you, DigiSavvy? Where are you on the interwebs? I'll include links to your social medias and such, but tell us where to find you.
Well, that's a great question, and I've prepared. So if you want to call me names or talk to me online, you can find me on Twitter at Alex J. Vasquez. My company is at DigiSavvy, also on Twitter, and you can find us at digisavvy.com. Also, hit us up on myspace.com/DigiSavvy, which I better go create just to have it.
I really need that to exist. That's got to become the next thing. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for coming on. I really appreciate it. I think this has been great. And you know, if anyone has questions or follow-up comments, be sure to leave them for Alex on Twitter online, and we will post this up as a blog post ASAP so that you guys can share this off and so forth. So thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.